You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Morning, everybody. No, I'm not actually live. I recorded that earlier. That is something that I did with, a great 3D rendering by Ruslan Sokolovsky. He's been on the show before. Actually, has not. He said his English wasn't good enough, but he was grateful enough to provide me, or I was grateful enough that he provided me a 3D model that I have used extensively in working with occipital structure sensor. As you know, if you've worked with Sketchfab, it's a model that they prominently have shown as well. So I thought I'd bring it out again to bring up something that I have been working on the last few weeks. That's why you haven't seen me, called ARkitBoard. And essentially that is using ARKit to do 3D stuff. As you can see in that image there, I have my NeoDIO Play Stealth on and literally looking around. So here's a little shout out to my friend Ruslan. If you're not familiar with him, he's created a bunch of cool 3D, what do you want to call it, backgrounds that you can apply to your Android phone. I think these are also available on iOS, but don't hold me to that. You can also go out to his YouTube channel, and he also has a Facebook link as well, and I'll put that in the show notes today after the show, probably over the weekend. But basically, look for Ruslan Sokolovsky, and he is an immigrant from Russia to France, and he's been there, I'd say, the last 2 years. At least that's since I've known him. And he is an exceptional renderer, and he actually has some new backgrounds for the little scene that I used. But I wanted to use that because, one, he uses a lot of great techniques for mobile, such as baking, which requires no lighting, which is very cool and obviously better performing. But he also obviously just has a knack for doing 3D art. So we're going to go ahead and later on talk a little bit more about ARKit and some of the links that I have found. And I want to give a shout out to a couple of other people who have been involved in using cardboard and applying their techniques. And if you're interested in working with it, I'll send you out a GitHub link to one of the individuals, which was, let's see if I can, Andrew, let's see, I think Andrew Nikes is the name, who has worked extensively in this. And I have to give a shout out because he used a very unique or clever idea in using quads in order to provide the right proportional aspect to doing AR in cardboard. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's get right into the first news item. And that would be, let's look at some of the things going on right now, a little bit of an update. If you're not aware of it, obviously, if you've already got an Oculus Rift, you're probably kicking yourself in the butt like I am. Well, I can't kick myself in the butt too much because on eBay, I was able to get mine for a little bit cheaper, but not this cheap. Actually, my son mentioned this to me, if this would be a great deal, and I said, go for it. But from what I can see from Amazon, this won't actually be available to August 7th. So if you are interested in finally picking up a VR, I don't think there's a better time. There are some other requirements, but frankly, they're not as bad as they used to be. For instance, you can get by with a 1050 Ti or Radeon RX 470 graphics card. I just picked one up for about $150. I'm going to make a small unit, and we're going to talk about backpack units a little bit later as well. Zotac, if you're not familiar with them, has just come out with theirs. A little pricey, and they should have made a lower end version of it. But if you don't have a PC, this might be the direction to go. Like I said, it's a little pricey, but the big news right now is the fact is that you can get the Oculus Vive, which I think is the better designed, sorry about that, Vive, as well as Oculus CV1 for $3.99. Again, this is August 7th. All right, let's move on to the next item. Still $3.99. You can go out to their website. Don't know why I have two links in there. Let's look at some other items. I just thought I'd go back and look at, the fact is that I have $600 still out there doing nothing. In fact, someone would think that this has been a huge ripoff. But if you're familiar with what we've talked about in the past, a long past, in fact, almost when I started this show back in 2013, 6 cents made a huge amount of money. As you can see, there's $604,978 on its backers to create the 6 cents unit, which is actually the STEM system. And over the time, it has evolved, changed, but the real issue is this thing has never been manufactured. So their update today, and I think it's kind of ironic that they spelled the word manufacturing incorrectly, kind of shows you where they may have some problems. But as you can see there, they are now trying to actually create the housing. And this has been months. I thought they had already designed the housing. It was already being manufactured and assembled, but that doesn't even seem to be the case. It appears that the trigger base, which is for the handheld units, are still being ironed out, which means for the parts. And these are things, from my own experience, are very critical. One of the reasons that I may actually delay in starting up my own Neo Play Stealth and Dream Shredder is because going from a standard 3D model that you print to creating actually models and parts for injection molding are completely different things. And obviously they're running into this, but this is like 2013, almost 4 years later, that they're having these issues and these types of clearance issues. If they would hire, I am not an industrial designer. I have learned on the go, but if they would have hired somebody with some actual experience, or in the case of occipital, actually work with your injection mold manufacturer, they could have moved forward much more quicker than this. And so it's really sad that we're still seeing these types of issues. So, I'm pretty much have dismissed it. If I get some time, which I don't have right now, I would really like to bring this to court. I think this is just appalling. And not only that, they have a lot of pre-orders out there. And I don't know if the same rules have applied, but I think some people have been able to get a credit on the pre-orders, but sadly us on the actual Kickstarter have not had or been so lucky. All right, on to another product that's almost a year and a half is, and I'll just show May 3rd is their last home stretcher, but if you're not familiar with it, this is the Aura 3D. Chris and I both ordered this because I think it's an intriguing product. For instance, it uses a green light. If you're not familiar, cameras are more sensitive to green, so the premise is that this would be more sensitive and more accurate, as well as more detail. It's kind of a cool thing. You put your phone in it, as they show here, and then you have a little turntable base, and then you can scan, like other line scanners, your object. And then it's all done on the phone, and then I think there's some editing features. Sadly, like a lot of products, creating the initial design and actual prototypes is one thing, but actually manufacturing is another. And like many things, here's their talk about their initial hiccups. So as you can see, they've got a lot of components in, but some things have been delayed. But they're making progress, so I expect to actually have a product. Not like the STEM system actually has boards or lots of parts that they've shown like this. No, they're still at the design phase. Sad. Oh well. So let's move on to the next item. Do you remember the Dremel 3D printer? Well, they've come out with a brand new unit, and they're pushing this towards school, and I think this is a great idea. One of the things that I learned in trying to release one of my 3D printers was the fact that 3D printers obviously require some care and some knowledge and some maintenance. And the sad fact is a lot of schools do not have somebody dedicated for that. So in my case, they actually decline, actually wanted to give it to the library system. They decline. Now, obviously school systems, if they have the budget, would probably have somebody with the capability, especially if you put this in, like a crafts class or something like that. So what's new about this particular model? Geez, let's see. I thought I had it up. Here we go. So let's learn more about it. One of the things that, if you remember, now I don't even remember, this is actually just a rebadged, and now I can't think of the name of it now, but I don't want to say it's a Flash Forge. I think it was. So obviously they've made some updates. So I'm not surprised to see that the Dremel has also created some updates. One of the cool things, they had a nice little LCD panel. It was all contained. The actual housing contains everything there. I believe the bed size is larger, 2-point leveling, enhanced cooling system. But I think the pricing is a little bit higher as well. And with some of the lower end products, less than 500, I think this was 12 to 1300, so still a little pricey. I don't know if this will be available at Home Depot. I haven't looked in it too much, but I just thought, we're still seeing progress in this area. I just read another article that says that was it 20 billion. 20 billion, that, or maybe not that high, but the toy manufacturing industry says they have lost that much money due to DIY, do it yourself, or DIY 3D printing toys. That would be interesting. You can find that out at one of my favorite sites, 3dyears.org, if you want to find out more about that. Okay, so let's get into our first technology item for the day. SIGGRAPH is coming up, and a site called Red Shark, an article by Matt Adon, has indicated that one of the things that will be prominent in this year's SIGGRAPH is the fact that, as I call it, VAMR, but now I've been told that it's not mixed reality with an M, it is X, so now it's Vaxer. I don't know, but I like VAMR. But so virtual, augmented, and mixed reality is going to be front center at SIGGRAPH, and this article kind of goes through and talks about what's coming up. I also put a link in the show notes that will take you out to SIGGRAPH. So if you're in California, sadly, I'm not in California anymore. I've been to it a couple times. It's a great show. The exhibits are great and on the cutting edge, both in software as well as hardware. So there's obviously going to be interest in mobile apps. So what else do we have? I think there's a section on the exhibits. So let's see what's in the exhibit area. Let's see if we got something here. Let's zoom in. Well, it looks like there's still, Black Magic will be there. I'm not surprised with that. They've got some great small cameras. I don't know if they'll be releasing anything else. Microsoft will be there. Who else will be there? Box, Autodesk, Maxon. Maxon is a great 3D rendering design toolkit. Sadly, it's a little on the pricey end, but they may have a subscription. I have to go back out and look at it and give it an evaluation. But right now, I've been kind of very happy with Blender, so I don't know if Blender will have a. Dell will be there. Algorithmic, if you're not familiar with, they create. No, I can't think of the word with it. A substance texture program that allows you to create realistic, gritty textures. Let's see what else we've got. Obviously, a lot more. You can go out to the map yourself. So if you're in California or going to SIGGRAPH, the big push this year obviously will be getting past the single plane screens and into virtual augmented reality and mixed reality. So, and as you know, I'm already a nut for it. So I don't know, won't be down in LA, but I'll see if somebody will be going out there and give us a bird's eye view of or actually a first person view of the actual event itself. So that's, what day is that? July 30th through 3rd of August. So that is, end of next week, a little bit after that. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. I thought this was very interesting as far as 3D in medicine. I didn't, when I originally saw the title of this, I thought it was actually improving the performance of MRIs or CT scans. It is not. It is actually using, the term is called tomography, where they actually slice brains, capture the images, and then do this, and then using what they call microscopy or scopy tomography. And this allows them to slice, slice, scan. And I think this is an automated process, and they can do this with a whole mouse brain in 2.5 hours. So this is a great reduction. And what's important, not only from research, but they also use this technique in autopsies, human beings as well. And it's allowed them to determine, you know, problems that occur at death, that either through trauma, through disease, that, and then also for training to provide very accurate tomographies at a very high detail of how the brain is developed from an organic base. And there's some, I don't have any links today, but there's some great, I think there are 3D representations that you can actually go through and see basically the cross sections as if you were doing this slicing process yourself. So the fact that we can reduce this period, we're probably going to see, because it's a very tedious process from what I've read before. This will help improve that. But sadly, it wasn't what I thought it was. But even so, from a research and autopsy perspective, I think this will be a great improvement. And so we'll see what happens. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and actually I don't know about the name Baby Sliso. I don't know if I would use that word, but we've covered them before. TomaVision creates software for working with MRIs and CT. It's a little pricey as far as that, but this evaluation license, you can get $50 for 5 tokens with $100 deposit. So 150 allows you to evaluate the software. So they'll even have a free version. I don't know what this demo here is, but for $1,700, it allows you to buy the software, and supposedly it works with a lot of ultrasound machines, the 4D types, and then allows you to not only create the tomography and then the 3D model, but then be able to bring it into a 3D printer, or in this case, for VR. Now, they call it the VR edition, so I don't know if that's an additional price. But I don't know what you can do in the actual demo version. Let's see what it comes up with. Okay, tells me there's a flash, so I don't know what that means. So I'll have to look into it. If the actual product for evaluation is 150, I will probably not do that. If you remember, some time back, I actually worked with this, creating a workflow with a product from GE. They kind of did the same thing, and then I was able to trick it. But the sad thing is the product is also fairly pricey, and they did have a demo version. But even the demo version, you actually have to license to one of the GE 4D ultrasound machines. And if you don't, you can't get a hold of it. There was a copy out in the wild. I don't know if it's still out there. Haven't worked with it in a while, but it was pretty cool. I was able to create a 3D model and then print it like a little pendant. And I think this could be interesting from a VR perspective. That's also very interesting. Imagine being able to walk around your baby or make it life size. And then with what I'm working on a little bit later, imagine being able to use that on your iPhone. I don't know, maybe it's too weird, but the fact is that we're able to do so much with 3D scanning in the medical community, both from a tangible product, meaning 3D fabrication, as well as AR, VR, and mixed reality that allows physicians and surgeons to collaborate, not even in the same room, I think is very, very compelling. There's another article that kind of talks about that. I thought I'd skip it this week, but maybe I'll bring it up next week. It really is a huge industry, and I see a lot more happening there. All right, let's move on to the next item. And I think this is pretty cool, and I'll actually be able to give you a demo. This And I have a few videos, so let me go ahead and bring those videos up. Let's see. So let's work with this one. This is now, as you can see, it's pretty cool. Basically, with your iPhone and this target system, you're able to create some very reasonable, cool, what do you want to call it, 3D models. Now, what's interesting, if you're familiar with photogrammetry, there have been some tools. Autodesk had a product out for some time. Why they removed it, I don't know. That allowed you to basically walk around an object and um, capture it and then send it in the cloud, and then it was turned into a 3D model. This seems to do everything within the phone. I don't think there's a cloud component to this. The thing, if you can see in the website here, even though you can capture, put it into your library, in order to actually download it, you have to buy, what do you want to call it, export cable, 99 cents. You can buy 5 for $3.99. So the value there, in my opinion, seems pretty good. If you remember, we talked about another product. Geez, now I can't even remember its name. Itzy's 3D product that also has a similar plan, except a little bit more pricey, which I notified them. There are ways, if you contact them, if you're using it for demoing or educational, you can contact Itzy's 3D and get some free downloads. But as far as actually downloading it, I think it was like $3.99, a little bit more pricey than this. So I think that's kind of a good value if you want to work with it. So let me jump to my main camera. So there we go. So this is the targets that I printed out, and you can either print it out from the, in fact, it's one of the first things that come up, as well as a video to show you how to use it that I couldn't see how to skip. So when you first start it, this is what you're forced to be able to either download or use AirPrint or email it to yourself. And if you go to their fact page, you can actually download it from their website as well. So PDF, make sure that you leave it at its size. Don't expand it to full page. And you can obviously make this larger, and they have done it because, for instance, if you want to scan larger objects, obviously you would need a larger piece, and then you would just put it down on a flat surface. And I did email them. They immediately sent me back some information today, which I thought was cool. One of the things they said is make sure this is completely flat. So I would recommend is either use or print it on a very thick paper. If you've got an inkjet printer, print it on photo paper, maybe a matte photo paper, because I think the gloss might affect it. Or just as they suggested, print it on a label paper and then peel back the label and then put it on a hard surface like a clipboard, which I thought was a great idea. And then they just use like a lazy Susan and able to rotate it. And there's another video, which I guess I can show you right now, that kind of talks about doing that. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a demo now. So let me jump to that screen. Now, I've never done this before, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus sign. There we go. Oh, look at that. Immediately found it. So let's start recording. So I wanted to be able to just turn it off. But it appears I have to finish the scan. And I may have messed it up by moving it. Oh, well, obviously I'm not in a position to do this. Oh, there we go. Well, as you can see, I don't know if I'll get some results out of this, but it seems pretty straightforward. Give yourself enough room. As you can see, I've been playing around with this, and well, so I don't want to hit the X. I don't know if what it would take. Oh, well, I'll go ahead and hit it. Yeah, so it appears it just starts over. So once you get a complete scan, I'm just assuming that once the complete scan is done, then it would immediately launch itself. And sadly, I did not complete one, so I don't have one. Um, and I guess there's a high resolution mode now that's available in this. So next time I will have a little turntable that, if you remember, I built for my own little photogrammetry system, but you can pick one of those up for just a few dollars. And so I think it's a neat kind of little app there. Obviously, if you've got an iPhone, I've got an iPhone 7, it seemed to work fairly, the performance was pretty good. So I'm assuming that it would work as well as on an iPhone 7 or iPhone 6S, or excuse me, 6S. Now, I do have this on iOS 11, so that might make a difference. But if you go out to, and I think I added it, here's the iTunes links. So it seems to work in iOS 11. They'll probably make some performance changes with that. And then out on Sketchfab, here are some models. So let's take a look at Pikachu. Let's see if the model loads. Not bad, huh? So one of the things I noticed is that the mesh information seems to be a little bit, let's see where we go. Let's put it in wireframe. No, actually the mesh is pretty decent. This is a smooth object. Let's take a look at something with, let's try this one here. So the resolution's a little off on this. This may be something that was done earlier. Let's try looking at its, let's go yellow. And it's a decent dense mesh. So I noticed nobody scanned any faces. So I have, well, guess that would be kind of difficult. You'd have to cut off the person's head to do so. So from that perspective, but I guess that you could put it behind them. So I'll have to ask them if you have to do a complete object or if you can do a partial object, like a half tone, which was what I was trying to do earlier. But, you know, basically for the cost of printing out their target, if you've already got an iOS device, this looks like a great little product. I think they also will have an Android version soon. So if you've got probably one of the newer Android phones, you can look forward to this as well. So the product is, I'm assuming, Clone with a Q. So pretty cool. Okay, so I'll have to try that a little bit more and actually put up my own Sketchfab object scan with it. So, all right, look into that and, you know, download it and try it yourself. All right, let's move on to the next item. So, as mentioned, Zotac, I saw this on Tom's Hardware, has a new Go backpack. And here they did a full review on it. And let's see, did I actually grab? There we go. Yeah. So let's go ahead.
Welcome to the unboxing of the Zotac VR Go backpack. Today we're going to be looking at everything that you can expect to find in the box, and we're going to be checking out the specs of the unit itself. One of the first things you'll notice when you take it out of the box is its weight. It only weighs about 10.95 pounds or 4.95 kilograms with the batteries and the backpack included. That is a very light VR solution. And
so one of the things that seems somewhat large.
Powerful standalone VR system anyways, or just a computer for any other reason.
And, you know, Zotac is known for creating some very small, compact units. So the fact is that that's fairly large. Obviously, if you're going to be putting this on your back, it doesn't matter. But I think the key thing, as they show there, is the modules for the batteries, which mean more than likely you could buy several of these. And because they have two of them, they probably switch. They probably are telling me that as I'm speaking. But they probably switch so you could actually pull one that is discharged and put another one in, which I think would probably be a great little idea. I'm assuming that's the direction. Full complement of ports, as he's indicating.
Full-size ports, 2 DisplayPort 1.3 ports, and both DC in and DC out, so that you can plug in the computer and play it on your desk, or the DC out can be used to power various VR headsets. And then inside of the unit, there's...
Well, I'll pause that. Obviously, you can watch the whole video through the show notes. But if you're looking for a VR capable PC, this one has an i7 as well as a 1070 card, which is about the price. Well, actually, we'll get to the price in a moment. With 16 gigabytes of memory, I don't remember. Actually, we're going to jump to it right now. Here is the actual Zotac website. And let's see, does it have specs? Well, if you go out to Amazon, which shows it's $18.99. So in my opinion, it's a little pricey. What do you get with that $18.99? You get obviously upgradable memory. Where's the specs on this? Yeah, Skylake CPU, GTX 1070, 16 gigabytes. What I'm looking for is, what does it have? I'm pretty sure a hard drive size 250 or 240 gigabytes PCIe. I'm assuming hard drive in it, so that would be cool. I don't know if you have the capability of putting an extended drive along with that. That's something that I have been doing, especially with some of these larger applications. But comparing it, nice thing about Amazon, it gives you reference. So MSI Heavy R1 also has a system, basically the same specifications, $21.99. And then they have this model here, which I guess is a lower at the same price. So you get basically the i7 1070 at $18.99, about $100 more than their lower end version of the MSI VR1, which, well, actually is an i7 as well, but it's a 1060 card. So depending on who you were like, the MSI has been out a little while, and then let me jump to this. And the Zotac has just been released. Interesting. Sadly, I've already bought a laptop with this performance, so I don't have any disposable cash to try it out myself. So if there's anybody out there who has one who wants to email me and let me know how this worked out for them, please let me know. But other than that, that's about it. I think I've covered everything in our VR corner. Oh, actually, one more item. I don't know how I missed it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, let me jump back to my cell. Go out to my notes. Almost missed it. I covered this week, and I tweeted about it a couple times, and actually wrote to the company because I'm very interested where they're going to go with this. So let me see if I can find my link to it. Here we go. And that is this, I don't know if the Mira Prism, and you can see the video. Let's see, do I actually have a video for it? I didn't actually load the video for this. Well, you can go out and watch the video. But I thought it was very interesting. Essentially, it's kind of like the headset type design that I have, but instead of putting the phone in front of your eyes and with a lens box, they push the screen forward and project it into a semi-mirrored lens system, as you can see there. And then basically, you look into the lenses and you see the real world, but also mirrored onto that is the screen from your iPhone, as they're showing there. And then the demo is pretty cool. Now, as far as tracking is concerned, they have a pattern, a tracking pattern that you can then show objects on it. So one of the things that I tweeted and I recommended is this is light enough, and I know that Occipital has been working on their core system. And essentially, I could see the core system being placed above the lens system here, providing the same kind of tracking performance in iOS that you would see in HoloLens, and be able to actually walk around an object. And I don't know what their pricing is, but I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, the core system in volume would probably be like $100. So I would see adding maybe $200 to the price of a $99 product. So one of the things that I suggested is that I would build them a prototype, and I'll be working with Occipital, but I think this is a very cool idea. And, there is other options, but I tried to look for it. If you notice here, there's your screen, and over here is where your camera is. Now, what's funny is the camera, if I remember correctly, I don't have it up and running, is, where is it? Okay, so it is on the left-hand side of this particular screen, so it should be right here. I don't know. Yeah, there's my cursor. So it probably is not seen through this, so that does provide the ability to track. The problem is ARKit, I don't think allows you to switch the cameras. I looked at in the SDK the other day, and I did not see an option to do so. I know for a fact it's not available in Unity. So I'd have to look at this a little closer. Maybe some notes should go out to Apple. Maybe they would like to go ahead and provide that feature so that ARKit can be used with this device too. And they probably have already reached out to them. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's also interesting that their little product here, their little handset, is the same one that I was using with the Dream Treader system, which also has iOS SDK as well as a Unity plugin. So it's funny that they're already making some headway with this little 3 degrees of freedom hand controller. So between this and the AR, I immediately put one in the developer kit, and hopefully I'll have it soon. I've contacted them, let them know that I'm working on some of the products, and also mentioned to them to reach out to Occipital. Pretty cool product, $99. In fact, you can pre-order it now. Should be available, where they say, in consider in the holiday season. But if you are a developer, you could get it in the fall, and it doesn't really, thought it said August, but fall could be anywhere between August and October, right? So here's what you get. You get a controller and the handset. I am very intrigued with this. Now, obviously, the resolution is based upon the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 7, but keep in mind, if it is true about the rumors with the iPhone 8, this would almost double this resolution in the same screen format. And if that's the case, we could really have a powerhouse product. Also, remember that that if it is truly a OLED screen, as been suggested, or an AMOLED screen, it will be brighter, which would provide even, what do you want to call it, more intense experience than an LCD screen. So this looks very intriguing. So I'll let you know more once I get mine, and we can go from there. So the last thing I want to talk about today is my own work, and that is what I call ARkitBoard. And essentially, I had been working on a version of this using cardboard, and there's some important things to keep in mind. And I'm going to go out to a GitHub site for, let's see, I don't want to get his name wrong, for Andrew, that has all the information, has a project for you to download until I get something up for you as well. But essentially, we were both were working on the same line. Sadly, if you download the latest version of Unity and use out of the box cardboard, or as they call it, Google VR, in Unity, it will work. So what you need to do is download, and he was kind enough to actually zip it and provide it in his project. But I had one that I had previously been working on when I was using the occipital bridge and their inside outside tracking. But you need to bring that in because it's important, because this won't work otherwise. And like I said, go out to his site, give him a shout out, give him a thumbs up for providing resources together. And also, he did something very clever that I liked, and I'll show you in a moment here. I'll give you an actual demo. He used a quad and a texture to reproject what the cameras would see at the proper 16:9 format. One of the things that I was stumbling on when I was trying to create the Air version, not the VR version, was the cameras, when you convert a 16:9 into a 1:1, makes it much taller than it needs to be. So by his technique, it allowed it to be at the proper format. And then he just used the Z depth of this plane to match it so that the video camera matched real life. Now, keep in mind, it is monoscopic, so you do lose your depth information there, but the objects in the space are 3D. And I will give you a demo here shortly on that. But it's very important. So let me jump out there real quick so that you can see it for yourself. Here we go. So again, shout out to Andrew. Big thanks for putting this together. Lots of good information. He's got a great project. Here's his little video where he's actually using it with the original demos with the ARKit. And then he made this little toggling switching. I have modified it, and actually I've done a couple other things in my version that actually use the settings version in Cardboard, so you can set this before you go into it. But it is kind of neat that you can automatically toggle as he's doing there. The response time, as he indicates, is about 30 frames per second. I was going to enable FPS in my demo, but I ran out of time for my episode today. One of the things I wanted to show was its huge potential in the VR world. And again, shout out to Ruslan for the demo that I'm going to show you right now. So let me go ahead and bring it up. And keep in mind, this is with my Neodi IO Play stealth unit. Minimal design, lightweight, with a 42mm lens box that folds down so you have full access to the screen, so you can immediately go into different devices. So let me go ahead and bring up my screen again. Okay, here we go. And my little head's peeking out at the bottom there. All right, so let's try this. Here we go. So immediately comes up in the standard, I believe we're in an AR mode. Yep, see? And this is, you can actually walk into it. So I'm going to take out my earbuds and do a little walking. So you won't hear me, but you'll get an idea. I'm going to walk into the scene. And if you can hear me, oh, look, I'm looking back into the tech cave. So I just entered a portal and coming back. There we go. Pretty cool, huh? All right, now here's the fun factor. You ready? There we go. Now we are in the VR AR mode. And notice that when I sleep, I still have my background behind me. And then you basically put it on your head. Now look at what happens though. And one of the things that I'm going to do is, instead of reprojecting it as a 16:9, I'm going to clip it back to a 1:1 so I can extend it to the full size of the screen. But the cool thing is using the cardboard. If you notice, I have the cardboard gear there. I've already mapped this to my own QR code for the profile of my lens box. So it matches perfectly now. And then I'm going to make one more feature and we're going to go into VR now. I got to find my targets that I put in. There we go. Oh. There we go. So now I'm in the standard VR mode using the full size of the screen. Seems to be a little bit of a lag. And I notice the phone is getting slightly warm. But again, I can walk around. And if you've got some glasses and won't get too nauseous, you can put them on right now. Watch this later on. And you should be able to experience full VR capability. Now you can barely hear me, but I'm walking into the scene. And notice that you can't see anything in the areas that, as far as the AR was concerned, because they're blocked out. All right, walk back into black pitch. So there you go. So yes, there is a little bit of lag, but again, the model hasn't been completely improved. I do have a shader. I'm going to try it with my own shader instead of using cardboard to see if there's a little bit of performance. I noticed with my own shader, it was a little bit better performing, but the sad thing is when you use your own shader, unless you provide options in the application, cardboard was great because if you have the proper QR code, it automatically maps all the geometric distortion for you. With my shader, you have to do it manually, in which I optimize for my lens system. But if you have something else, that wouldn't work. So again, shout out to Ruslan for his great little demo. Again, he used baked textures. It's very well laid out, very easy to work with, and higher performing. One of the reasons there's a glitch in there is that I actually opened the door, which took a little bit of work because I had to actually pull his model apart since he had condensed it all. Put the door in, retextured it, reshadowed it, but then I also had to, and that's the problem there, create a new door, and I didn't actually push it up enough, so that's what you're seeing, that little thing. So I'll have to tweak that a little bit. Anyways, pretty cool. And let me jump back to this screen. Big shout out again. If you want to try this for yourself, he's put together some great notes, and then I'm going to add my own version of this out there as well. And then you can download it from as a contributor. I may even fork it, but again, great job, Andrew. Really like the way that you use the a quad and a texture to reproject the cameras. So I think it does add a little bit of a lag, but I tried to actually go into Unity in the actual code and modify it, but it looks like you can't do it directly from the code, but I didn't play around with it too much. But as you can see, it works fine. From a VR perspective, you don't really need the projection plane. But you do need to make sure that you have one camera that's being used for the ARKit plane levels. And then obviously, as he has here, you can turn all that off, so you don't need any of the demo features, and it will still lock on. And frankly, for basically having an iPhone and the simple tracking, that I was very surprised in how well it worked. Now, again, it's not going to be Gear VR or even I can't even, Daydream performance capable, and obviously it won't even match HTC Vive. But who knows with the iPhone 8, and we don't know what's going to be in store with their tracking system. The other case in point is now that I've seen the potential here, again, going back to the core system by Occipital, marrying that, if you know, I already actually, if you go back to my main screen, one of the things that this headset I've created implements is I can actually put the structure sensor here, but I can actually, through a magnetic base, put any sensor. So as soon as they make the core available, I'll be able to snap that on the front of that and have much better projection capability. The other cool thing about the core, it does not appear to require the large, heavy, relative speaking, aluminum casing that the structure sensor. So it would keep this fairly lightweight. And as you can see, the cameras are still available. The version for the iPhone 8, I'm still waiting for the final design. We'll have this modified so that both cameras will be visible. So I'll probably have to move the sensor portion over. But yeah, worked really well. I was very surprised with that. All right, well, that's about it for the show. I would like to thank all the contributors to this, Andrew, Ruslan, as well as 3ders.org. What was one of the sites that I brought in today? Oh, the SeaGraph from Red Shark News. I thought was very nice. So with that being said, I think we're done for the day. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And Chris will be back with us next week. Obviously, he'll have a lot more from the 3D fabrication side. And we'll get more. I'm actually going to do a little bit more of SimLabs and then give maybe a brief Blender tutorial on using baking in that, and then how to bring that into Unity. One of the things I had problems with SimLabs is that when you bake and you try to bring them into Unity as well as Unreal, if your normals aren't set up properly, you'll basically have black textures. And once it's in Unity, it's a little difficult. So I'll show you how you can immediately bring that into Blender or even use SimLabs. Blender is great because you can see the normals right off the bat, and then just switch them and then just export it again. And I've done that a couple of times now. If you saw my little demo, let me go ahead and bring it up since, you know, I'm here. Let's see. Here we go. I called this Soyoban of the North. If you haven't seen it already, you can go out to my YouTube channel. I used baking with this. If you notice, the hair textures are a single plane, and I didn't want to go with a dual shader because the dual shader that you can get in Unity does have the ability, but it's I'm using basically unlit for better performance, and I could not do that with a dual texture. So I didn't like the way the hair turned out. It wasn't as vibrant. The other thing is I played some tricks on creating shadows in the snow so that I could bring that in without having to light the rest of the scene. Okay, I've lost everybody. One person's back. Thank you for attending the show, and I appreciate it. And this is All Things 3D for 7/20/2017. And bye.